Hey friends, and welcome to another highlight and breakdown video. This is a series that I wanted to make that doesn't just show the gameplay. I want to highlight the important waves or plays and give a breakdown on my thought process of how or why it happened. And in this game, we beat two of the best players of all time, Ofma and Lucy. You may recognize Lucy from her many wins with her partner Jashir in D1 of Nova Cup, and Ofma from his incredible casting of said Nova Cup or his in-game emote. They usually hang out in the top 10, while I'm all the way down here, barely making it into the leaderboards. Basically, they're Legion legends, and very tough to beat, unless I bring out the Pro-Ho. Alright, enough fanboying, let's just get into the game. I was doing a YOLO only day on stream, and wasn't about to cheat and not go it just because of my opponents. Unfortunately, the YOLO roll was not great. Let's quickly go over it. If I didn't want to reroll, I had a couple of options, and none were that great. I could open Grarl and hope they don't send me on wave 2, because I have nothing to add and a single snail will leak me pretty bad. If they didn't send, I could sell it for an Avenger on wave 3, then start to work towards the Butcher. I'd be very low workers because my lowest cost unit was 90 gold for the Coiler, and normally this would be a very good combo. I would have eventually ended up with a Lifesteal and or Ocean Templar Avenger with some Coilers to kill any 4-eyes, but with this roll, by the time that I got there, Ofma and Lucy would both be about 10 workers ahead of me, so that's a no-go. Or I could open with the gun, but what do I do on wave 3? I could add a pretty useless Coiler that won't tank for the gun and do way less damage. No, I had to go for a reroll. The thing about YOLO is you can't be afraid to reroll on wave 1. Sure, you lose your 1 bonus income, but wave 1 is the only wave that you can re-roll a tier 1, which is always important to have to cheaply fix a split, or to be just enough to help hold a wave, especially because I'm planning to go gun, which usually does require a tier 1 for range waves, or wave 10. Okay, so my reroll is definitely better than my starting roll. We've got some early game power with gun, rats, and gargoyle, which will let me push a decent amount of workers and be safe to most ends. And for late, I'll have Kingclaw, Ocean Templar, Sovereign, Hades, and Vulcan. And it seems my ally also had a bit of an odd YOLO and rerolled on wave 1 too. Alrighty, and already we have a bit of an unfortunate moment. They both went snailable openers on round 1, and the champion Wildstream leaks about 42%, and the Gate Guard leaks around 33%. It could have been some nice gold to take away from them and give to us, but sending the snail on 1 is always risky because they just might need that 6 gold for an extra worker. On wave 2, I noticed that Lucy went for the full canopy, which means she started with only 3 workers. This means that even with her no send on wave 2, I should push that extra worker. The most she can possibly send me is a 40, and because I rolled a gargoyle, I knew I was safe to go to 6 workers. Because I had 40 Mythium on income, I wanted to try going a cheeky Ribosend. Ofma's board isn't the greatest for wave 3, and I felt it was worth the risk. Here comes wave 3, and I was right that Lucy only had a tiny bit of Mythium to send, so pushing that extra worker to a no send worked out pretty well. My Ribosend also did pretty well. Normally when you send a power mercenary, you are hoping for a bit of a larger leak, but hey, I'll take it. After the wave 3 send, I knew I was probably safe to go ahead and push another worker, even though it was only a 20 send. Gun and Gargoyle really are one of the stronger openings in the game, so even if that 20 was fake and she sent a lot here, I was probably going to be fine. I was trying to figure out when to send next when I looked over at my ally and saw that he had an after income brute queued up, and being a bit of a memer myself, I said, okay, I'll send an after income fiend. Ofma has a lot of impact, and even though he probably just upgrades the consort, it might work. Okay, so it's wave 4, and this is the best possible outcome. Every single one of his impact damage units was attacking the fiend, while the consort was attacking the wave. Sure, it might kill a couple of extra chickens, but the 2 bazookas and gate guard aren't killing anything. And Lucy was greeding a bit, relying heavily on her champion canopy to carry this wave. I actually like this send because you assume Lucy's trying to make it for the first couple of waves with no workers, which means she may have pushed one too many trying to catch up. Okay, for real though, why is it so strong that it killed everything but the brute? It's okay though, we got some king damage and some extra gold because of it, which I definitely needed because I accidentally pushed to a no send, and gun isn't the greatest on 5 and especially 6, so this extra worker may hurt us a little bit. Green Devil is probably stronger here, but I was thinking it would be a big 6 because my ally is showing Bounty Hunter and I have a gun, So I want Grarl to sell for an Avenger for 6. But unfortunately they sent here, and while my split is really good, I do end up leaking a little bit because of how under I am. When I checked their boards, I noticed that they were mostly impact, so I wanted to send wave 8, because wave 6, 7, and 9 are all weak to impact damage units, so I figured wave 8 as a swift wave was our best option. I only pushed one worker after wave 5, because it was a long wave, which means they have more Mythium to resend, and my ally and I were both weak here. I overbuilt a bit with units strong on wave 7, so if they do resend me here, I get to push a bit for our big wave 8 send into them. Wave 6 comes, and while I did get resent, it was only 2 snails, and there's a bit to unpack here. My ally only got a 40 on wave 5 and was skipped on wave 6, so I was pretty sure they were coming on wave 7, especially because he'd already shown the Orchid and the Bounty Hunter. They probably assumed my ally shifted for a Kingpin, and while it does provide a lot of value, it is very weak to a couple of brutes. I remember the first time I found out. I was 200 overvalue on 7 with a full mana KP, and I ended up leaking 60% to 3 brutes. Anyway, back to the 2 snails that I got. I didn't push because I assumed my ally would leak hard here, and I could possibly get a double brute into me as well, so I wanted to make sure that I held and covered any potential leaks. Wave 7 comes, and my ally did get the triple brute, but instead of going for the KP, he went for the Avenger, which is much stronger against the brutes. And Lucy did assume that I would overbuild to cover, so she just sent me Income King, which means I would have been fine to push a bit after 6. Oh well, it's fine. I ended up covering my ally's leak, which really wasn't much considering the send. But this is when we get really nasty. Our original plan was to go 8, but since they just sent us and Ofma had built a bonk on wave 7, we decided to go a bit longer. And this is when my ally suggested we go all the way to 10. Keep in mind, the last time we sent was on wave 5. They don't know when we're coming, so they're just trying to income king to scale and have a strong enough king to make our eventual send hurt the king a bit less. Another income king into us on round 9, and if you look, Lucy added a boar on wave 8 and then another one on round 9, while Ofma added his first boar on round 9. After seeing them both add so much fortified, wave 10 was looking really good. Both my ally and I had a bunch of Mythium saved up, and it was finally time to send. I went with old reliable Siege Ram, while my ally went Shaman. And if you ask some of the higher ranked Legion players whether Shaman is good on 10, you're gonna get some mixed answers. However, if you assume both wave 10 bosses will get to the king with moderate health, the Shaman can drastically increase the damage the king takes. Let's see how it goes. I did do a bit of an oops at AZ by not fixing my split, so one of my guns does die, but I'm sure it's fine. Let's take a look at what they're doing. This is perfect. All of the Daphne are attacking the Siege Ram, meaning my boss is going to get through with a good amount of HP. My ally also gets their boss through with some decent HP, and now it's time for Shaman to shine. I wish I'd got a bit of a better angle, but we definitely did do a good bit of damage to their king. All we needed to do is one more big send and they were finished. Because they'd already built a bunch of fortified on 7 to 9, I suggested that we go embargo and end them 13. I did do a bit of an overbuild for a couple of reasons. They should assume that we're going embargo 13, and this makes us very vulnerable to a 12 send as we cannot income king to help protect us. Wave 12 comes and they probably didn't counterattack because they didn't go for a big 12, so it's probably embargo from everybody in the game. I probably should have pushed a bit more for this 13 seeing how on value they are, but they're still looking somewhat weak on 13, so we decided to go. I went with a Needler because looking at their board, it's likely they go a bunch more Orchids, and I would have gone a Kraken, but because I hadn't pushed enough, I didn't get it on income, so the Needler will have to do. I also wanted 2 Dragon Turtles to soak up some of the Orchid damage, but I didn't have enough, so I just went with a Brute. And what's interesting is that Ofma and Lucy did not send into us. So my send wasn't the greatest, as I barely got anything through, but my ally did leak Lucy quite a bit, and this just might be enough to end them. They have a decent amount of attack upgrades, but we got a couple of shots from the Needler at least, 4 high HP golems, and an ogre with a lot of HP as well. Oh my god, this is going to be so close. 20%, and now 10%. And we did it! Let's go! Wow, if they had had just 1 or 2 more AoE, I'm pretty sure they live there. And would you look at that? A casual plus 29. I do feel kind of bad about this, but at the same time, damn does it feel good to beat 2 people as good as Ofma and Lucy. Now, I did find them 2 more times that day, And damn, those games were not even close. But we got our win, and we will take it. I hope you guys enjoyed this highlight and game breakdown, and I'll be back with some more.